and I've been telling you about this book I have been reading that I don't put down. I take it in the car with me. I take it every place, and I actually have this fabulous author on the program. Her name is Tamara. Am I pronouncing it right? Tamara Jacobs.
It's Tamara.
Tamara Jacobs has written her newest book. She's written a book called Be the Brand, and her latest book is Your Ultimate Success Plan. Stop holding yourself back and get recognized, rewarded, and promoted. Welcome to the program. Thank you for joining me.
No, it's my pleasure, my absolute pleasure.
I am so pleased, and you have to thank your publicist for making sure we finally got connected. So now, how does one just get into the business of success and planning? Tell me about your life growing up and where you're from and, all the fun things about Tamara Jacobs and Tamara Jacobs Communications.
Right, first I will do that, but I have to congratulate you. You are amazing. I've listened to your previous broadcast. And you're empathetic, you're articulated, and you're animated. So I would want to buy your brand in an instant. I have to say that up front.
Oh, I received that. No. I totally received that.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Where did I grow up? Okay, I'm from Michigan. And it's interesting because some people have told me that that's very surprising to them. As a matter of fact, one of my CEO clients said, "Are you serious?" He said, "You're like a Hyatt key. Once you left the state, they decoded you and you can't get back in." So I wasn't sure whether that was a compliment, what the heck that was. But I'm from Michigan, mm-hmm. and I was fortunate growing up because I had amazing parents. I had a two-income family. They were both working. My dad was a musician, and my mother had started out life as an actress, took time off to have a couple of kids, and then decided that she really didn't want to be a Midwestern homemaker. So she went back to school, got a couple of advanced degrees in communication theory, shopped herself to the community college. They were just starting. Said, "You need a speech department, and I'll build it for you." And they said, fine. And it's a wonderful story because there were 800 students. There were only 7 full-time faculty, and she was the only woman. So, hats off to you. And I think she did it, frankly, because she was just so annoyed. We didn't appreciate her wonderful effort, her cuisine, her homemaking, her housekeeping. So she said, "That's enough. I'm done. I'm gonna rebuild my brand." And she turned into Professor Jacobs, and that was a very interesting time because I didn't know any other mothers who worked. And I wasn't exactly sure what to do with my mother. It was very perplexing. I didn't know how to describe her to others. And it was also very inspiring because her discipline was phenomenal. She taught a bunch of 8 o'clock classes, so she would leave a note, get breakfast for yourself kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was, at the time, I guess, a latchkey kid, only I didn't know it. And it made me very independent, and I didn't know there was any other way. I didn't know that other mothers, while I realized they weren't like my mom, weren't so very different from my mom, and I only found that out later. So she was very inspiring.
That is, and when you have that role model, and she set a template for you. But I love what you said. I think she just got ticked off at us. We did not, because I understand, that your mother from the book, that your mother was a gourmet cook, and you guys were like, okay, yeah, whatever. So what? We're eating cocoa van, big deal.
We were so rude, and I will never forget, this is awful, but when she everybody has an inflection point, and she made this brilliant meal, and my father put flags on it, and that was it. Those little party flags, that was it. It just, it sent her over the edge.
See,
and there was no turning back. Mm-hmm.
I see, yeah. And I get that. And, family has a tendency to take advantage or to overlook what mothers bring to the table. I was reading this article a few years ago that said if a wife and a mother got paid for all the stuff that she does, with the child care, with the house cleaning, with the food, everything, most husbands couldn't afford their wives. They couldn't afford it.
Exactly
They
right.
could not, because,
the
they were talking about how women are so stressed out when we're driving because we have to wear so many different hats. Men are just in the car driving. They're not thinking about getting the lunches together, who's got to go to the doctor, who's got soccer practice, who's got band. We think about 11 things, and we still get the job done. We still get it done. So now here you have this template for your mother. And you're an expert at helping people brand their product, brand their image, and corporate branding. Can we talk about that? Because one of the things was when I was working on, being in the entertainment industry, and I had my little business plan, and I was trying to explain to people what it is that I was doing, and they're like, "But you're trying to say that you're like, like Pepsi or Coca-Cola or McDonald's." I am the brand. Let's talk about the importance of branding, and especially in this day and age.
It's interesting because a brand is three things, and I learned this from my time at Johnson & Johnson, where we were launching products, and it was all about commerce and commodity, and people as brands. And a brand is known, a brand is trusted, and a brand is used. And if you are known, if you are trusted, /liked, and used, then guess what? Not only are you a brand, you are iconic, and people will always pick a name brand over a generic if given the choice. And so you have to carefully develop and protect your brand, because the other thing people expect from a brand is consistency, which is why, we go for a Kleenex or we go for a Xerox, because we know that the product is reliable. And if you become iconic, you frankly shut out the competition. So if you think about it, in common vernacular, we don't reach for a tissue, we reach for a Kleenex. We don't copy, we Xerox.
Exactly.
And and even if you're going to the Xerox machine and it's not the Xerox machine, you're still going to the Xerox machine.
Exactly. It's like Band-Aids. There are different brands of Band-Aids, but we like Band-Aids. And we trust Band-Aid, and we trust the Johnson & Johnson brand. And that's what's important. And especially in this day and age with technology, where employers and universities are looking at young people's and most people's social media and what they're posting. Are there some new tricks to the trade that people need to know about with the new technology? I know you shouldn't be out here tweeting your meat. I know that. Just don't do that.
Yeah.
And don't be tweeting your body parts.
Do that.
But are there other things that people should be on the lookout when they're building their brand and protecting their brand?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But what's interesting, you talk about technology, but what really sells a brand is access and intimacy. Because the still biggest seller of a brand is word of mouth, and so people have to have a tactile experience with you. They have to interact with you. They have to feel very connected to you. And what's interesting about texting, tweeting, whatever, it's gone in a minute because it's produced in a minute, and something quickly knocks it down and replaces it. So I think it's important. Great, I get it, but I still think that the human connection is critical. And it's very interesting. I'll share a story with you. I do a lot of consulting for a law firm. It's a very famous law firm. And I don't want to give the name because I don't think the story is a very good one. and so, they can't even get their young associates to walk down the hall to attend a meeting. Are you serious? So they sit at their desk and they conference in. And to me, that is just stunning, and they can't get them out of that habit.
What is that roadblock about? I mean, how do you build a personal and intimate relationship when you're just on a conference call? To me, I agree with you. There is nothing like FaceTime, nothing. And I didn't realize this, with the all this Instagram, and you can just send an email. I handwrite my thank you notes. And I do have a lovely penmanship, I must say. And I handwrite my thank you notes. And I've always done that. And people to this day have saved my thank you notes because they're like, who writes a note? Who drops something in the mail anymore? And
no, you're right. No, keep going, because you're absolutely on the right track.
I mean, it was just they made such a big deal out of it. And I was like, what? doesn't everybody do that? And she goes, no, they'll send an email, but you actually write it down. At Christmas time, I handwrite all the Christmas cards. Well, last year I didn't handwrite them. I just got a label and we just stuck them on the label and we went on about our... If you would have thought I sent them some dog poop in the mail. People were up in arms. What do you mean you put a label on this, Mother Love? We're looking for your handwritten, and we just do not appreciate. I said, I will not do it again. And I didn't realize how much attention people pay to that.
You are so right. It's very interesting because I talk a lot about successful people in the book, and I learn from smart people, and I recorded a lot of anecdotes that are relevant. And there is one very relevant anecdote. I was initiating a big training program, and I had to bring some people in from the field, star sales talent from the field to help me pilot the selling skills program. And I brought several people in to help me, but there was one guy in particular who took the time to write me a thank you note. And it wasn't a generic, it was very specific. That's the other thing about a thank you note. It can't be glib, because then we know that you just wrote it to get kudos. He wrote it with very specific observations and things that worked and why he enjoyed being a part of it so much. It was so memorable, to your point, that I showed it to the president of the company. I said, we got to keep an eye on this guy. And he said, don't worry, Tamara, I already am. And he was the only one out of that whole group who wrote me a thank you note. And to this day, I have saved it. And I'm not sure whether I should share this on the air or not, but he is now the CEO of Johnson & Johnson.
Okay, well, no, let's share that. No, that's a big deal. One of the things that you talk about in your book is devaluing yourself. And women have a tendency to do that. They'll say, oh, well, anybody could have did that. Or especially when you're negotiating for a raise. Or, one of the things, and, I always want to be the dumbest rock in the box. I want to be, and I think I'm a pretty smart cookie. I want to be the dumbest one in the room because I can learn from a 6-year-old. I can learn from a crackhead, not to ever do crack because they smell funny. I can learn from everybody. And that's what we do, whether it's yay or nay. And one of the things you talk about is, and which was so critical, I've gone back to it like 14 times already. You should see my book. It's all marked up. It's all written up. I answer the questions in the back, and then I add some stuff to it. And so one of my friends said, "Can I read that?" No, get your own. This is because the questions that you ask in the back keeps it fresh and it keeps it going. And one of the many brilliant things that you talk about is women. I mean, we know that we make 78 cents to every man's dollar, and in the African American and Latino community, it's even less. We devalue. Women still have a tendency to devalue what we bring to the table. Why do you think that is?
Because we don't play like men and we don't talk like men, which is very interesting. We are so afraid that if we put ourselves up, we're putting somebody else down, and that's not the case. And women have to. It's almost a sequence that you have to follow. First, you give yourself permission, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get strategic, and you practice the ask so that in the moment you don't fold. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting because let's go back to that notion of brand. A brand sells itself not only on its features but its benefits. Mm-hmm. And so if women in particular think of themselves as brands with features and benefits, I always talk about the fact that features tell, benefits sell. And so when you're asking for anything, male or female, but women need to have this more than men because our aversion to it is just so sad. We can declare and we can ask if we are benefit driven. In other words, if I want a raise, I can't just say, I deserve a raise. No. First, you have to put deposits in somebody's ego bank. You have to tell them all the good things you've done, the benefits to the company. You build a case, therefore, if they want to keep you as a valid contributor, to keep you motivated, to keep you, making these massive contributions to the company, then it would be right for them and good for you to give you this raise. right? Or to give you this promotion. And you frame it because it's not good for you, it's good for them.
Another point, you have so many great ones in this book, and I highly recommend this for not just women. I recommend this for anybody who wants to achieve success. And my success is different than anybody else's success. One of the many things you talk about is when you're talking about a raise and you know that you have value to the company and you got benefits for them, oftentimes, and women have a tendency to forget about this, and I was so glad you brought this up. Don't all the time think about it in a monetary sense, because you could get a corner office, you could get a car, you could have an expense account. They could pay for your travel expenses, and don't be afraid to speak up. So many women want to work in a silo. One of the things I've always heard, and I live by this: a closed mouth cannot get fed. If you don't tell people who you are, what you need, where you stand, how are they going to ever know if you don't speak up? And women seem to have you said we don't talk like men, we don't play like men. Do you think that we really need to play like them, talk like them, or ought we have our own structure and our own foundation and not have to be devalued as women?
Well, women do a funny thing. We operate on two ends of the spectrum and they're both wrong. Either we're completely quiet.
Wait a minute, back it up. You got to say that again. That was too funny. But tell the truth. Go ahead, say it. You got to say it again.
Yeah, we operate on either end of the spectrum and they're both wrong. And I love what you said about a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So either we're silent and we hope that somebody will notice our good deeds and rescue us, right? Mm-hmm. Or we pent all of this anger up, and then we go in and explode and demand, and now we're a bitch. Mm-hmm. So either you're a mute or you're a bitch. Really? And so if along the way you have these incremental moments of declaration, you have to let the right people know for the right reasons the right things you're doing. Mm-hmm. And so you do this along the way. And what you're doing is building debt so that when you want to strike, you have a breadcrumb path. Mm-hmm. But we don't. We sit in silence. Then we vent to the wrong people, and then we get hurt feelings, and we go in and we cry in front of our boss. No. So I think that I tell people, men and women, to build a victory list. Document every win that you have. Small, big, doesn't matter. Document every win so that you now have a history of positive contribution. And you can call upon that and remind people of that when it comes time to pull the trigger. And I also am a big proponent of declaring along the way. So pleased that I could help make this happen, put this $1 billion deal together, that I was instrumental in bringing, XYZ company to the attention of, because I think, that in future this is going to be so great, and I was so pleased that I could play a part in this successful merger. That sounds humble, but I'm declaring at the same time. And that is an art.
It really
and so it doesn't make me look like I'm bragging, but it does make me look like a player.
And that's what we have. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want you to talk to us about the sphere of influence and how to build that sphere of influence. Because one of the things I wanted to know from you, of the many things, is do we need more than one sphere of influence? On the phone with me is author, coach, consultant. She has her own company. She's the founder and president of her own strategic communications consulting firm, and internationally recognized expert in the field of image, product, and corporate branding. And I have all to ourselves. We have it all today with Ms. Tamara Jacobs, and we will be back after these messages. Be prepared. Know what it is that you want and be ready for your ultimate success plan. Stop holding yourself back and get recognized, rewarded, and promoted. This is what is in this great book from Tamara Jacobs, who is the founder and CEO. Am I pronouncing your name right? Tamara?
All right, I'm giving you a third choice, Tamara.
Tamara, okay, that's it. Tamara Jacobs Communication. She's done over 3,000 workshops and keynote presentations and is wonderful. She's also a former equity actress, and you also were a news person on the 3 major networks in and around. You just do everything. You have this down. This book is, I just love it. One of the things, I really do. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is this sphere of influence, where you say, draw a circle, put yourself in the middle, and then put the people that you need around you. And the importance of cultivating these relationships. People think, oh, well, I know so-and-so and such and such, and oh, I've talked to so-and-so and such, but they don't follow up. How important is that?
That's huge. It's very interesting. A couple of things, and let me be controversial for a minute. I like to say, and this is a very disruptive thought, that the day of the mentor is dead. And let me explain that. So much of current business thinking is this notion of mentor, that men and women go find some senior person who's going to be their champion, who's going to make life great for them, who's going to, be their fairy godmother. And I like to say that Cinderella had a fairy godmother. You don't. and so if you go through your business life or even your personal life, just waiting to be rescued, it's not going to happen. What you have to do is go out and build this fan base, this group of advocates. And what's very interesting is, first of all, you have to identify them, then you have to go after them. This whole notion of networking, that if you're not networking, you're not working, it's true, and it's hard work. Malcolm Gladwell wrote that wonderful book, Tipping Point, and then he wrote Blink, and he keeps talking about the fact that it's all about social power, that today it's not just money, it's social power. It's being a connector. Mm-hmm. And a connector is somebody who's useful to other people. Like if I know of a great sale that's going on, right? Mm-hmm. Then, and I know that you like Ralph Lauren purses or something, I'm going to tell you about that sale. And I'm going to email you, how you might contact, what the prices are, and you're going to like that. You're going to thank me for that. You're going to do the small things. For instance, a woman who's a client of mine just got promoted, and I sent her flowers, So for $45, I'm a hero. And guess what she did? She wrote me back and she said, that's amazing. When can we talk about bringing you in? Now, I didn't do it because she was going to bring me in. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And so it's constantly thinking, how can you be of value to other people? How can you make them happier, smarter, or richer? And it's something that I call shopping your brand. And let me tell you what I mean by that acronym, SHOP. It's about being seen, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not about sitting at your desk. It's socializing. At lunch, I don't care if you brought your lunch. Go down to the cafeteria, stand in line, because this is when people are available to you. You couldn't see the CEO. His gatekeeper wouldn't let you in, but guess what? There he is in the sandwich line. So if he's making a BLT, guess what? You are too. And so this is a great opportunity for you to be seen, right? Never eat at your desk.
How does one be able to find that balance, and it doesn't look like that you're brown nosing, that you really, because I believe you got to be present in that moment with them there, and like you tell the story about one of the guys that wanted to get to the CEO, and he found out that the CEO always was at the gym very early in the morning, and so he made it his business to be at the gym before he came in. And so they got to talking. And now, how does one go about making sure that doesn't look like it's brown nosing? Because you can tell that sometimes.
Yeah, but if the guy was flabby and suddenly showed up at practice, that would be an issue. But it was clearly somebody who worked out anyway. So why not work out at 5 o'clock when the CEO is working out? I mean, so you have to actually join them in something they like doing and you look credible doing, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why lunch is benign, because everybody eats. So you don't look like you're quote unquote brown nosing if you're making small talk. But then you have to be ready for that that elevator speech they always talk about, the 15-second elevator speech. Like if somebody's saying, "How's it going?" Don't say fine. Say, it's going really well. I just entered into a negotiation with, and I'll keep you updated. I think it's going to be big news to the company. I mean, you have to have that almost planned spontaneity, that declaration in your back pocket.
I want you to go back. I want you to go back to when you said the mentor is dead. Because everybody's always looking for that. I'm not looking for anybody to rescue me, but I like to be mentored. I like to learn from people and I understand what you mean by that, especially in that sphere of influence that we all should have, because the mentor could go away, they could retire, they could die. Then what are you going to do if should something like that happen?
They could get fired. And then really, what are you going to do? I mean, to your point, you have to be strategic. You pick your mentors. You look at the org chart. And it's not just within the organization. It's things that you like to do. For instance, I love to rescue animals. I am a huge Peke freak. I love the breed. I love Pekingese. And they're a very abused dog because they have those prominent eyes, and people are always doing bad things to their eyes and whatever. It's just very awful. So I decided that would be something that I would do. And by becoming an active member of the Pekingese Rescue of New Jersey, I have met amazing people with similar interests. And by the way, a lot of them are very high profile. So, it's when you talk about a sphere of influence, it's a business sphere of influence, okay? And you look at who's where you want to be, and then you become useful to them. You send them articles that might be of interest. You let them know what's going on in the landscape, even if they don't know you. It's what you put in the subject line, and if it proves useful to them, they will reach back out to you. And then, you ask some peers, and you connect through them. The point is, you're going to need about 5 people in your sphere of influence, maybe 6. And you're going to have a reason for reaching out to each one of them, that personally advances you, but will benefit them. Because the thing about a mentor is they want bragging rights. They want to say that, I knew Joanne years ago, and I helped her with, and look at where she is now. I want bragging rights if I'm a mentor. So you have to be mentor worthy, by the way. And if you're somebody else would like to claim, then go for it. And then be useful to them, and give as much as you try to get. And that's how you build equity.
Speaking of that,
it's hard work because you're constantly refreshing your fan base, and you're constantly feeding people information. And here's the other thing about developing this sphere of influence. If you have an interest in an organization, don't just attend, volunteer. Be on the planning committee, be on the social committee, put the book club together for them, become an activist.
Do the work. And then it doesn't seem like work. This is a point that I want you to talk about as well, because in the book you have a chapter called "Don't Be Invisible. You Never Get More Than You Ask For."
Right.
And a lot of times I think people don't ask, especially women don't ask, because they're afraid of no. Let's talk about how to handle no. I'd rather get a soft maybe than a hard no. And maybe no is not no right now. It just might not be the right time. But let's talk about how we can effectively deal with no, even when it's a hard no.
But here's the point. If you don't ask, you're already living in no. You've already told yourself no before somebody else will. And it's very interesting. People who are afraid of no say, well, he would have said no anyway. And so we don't even go for it because we're already living in the projected no. And my daughter gets tired of this, but my whole life plan is try yes first. And here's my thinking around that. If you try yes and it doesn't work out, you can always say no. But if you say no, you can't go back and say, just kidding. It's over. So I think you learn from no. again, I mean, if you get a no, then you have to probe. And what was the reason behind the no? And if it's something you can correct in future, then that was a very productive no.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that was just capricious and subjective, then you have to learn to let that kind of rejection roll off you so it doesn't define you. The point is no's make you stronger. So it's fine. If I go in and I'm looking for yes and you give me a no, then I will probe and I will find out why I got the no. And if it's valid, I learn from it. And if it's not valid, then guess what? I'm wiser. I don't appreciate it. It wasn't a good feeling, but I'm wiser and I'm learning about people.
And I think it's important to know who you are and how far you're willing to go, especially working in any business, because, the boss might ask some crazy stuff. And if you're willing to go for anything, you have to know what your foundation is to be able to say, well, yes, I'm willing to do that, or no, that goes against what I believe in,
right.
And a lot of people just, well, if I do this and I know it might not sound right or it might not feel right. And when it doesn't, it usually is not right. You got to trust your gut instinct. And I think so many people don't. They are just stuck in that job. And that's why I don't do well on jobs. You know what job stands for, right?
No.
Just over broke.
Right. Well, I have another acronym for you, which is Mom was right. And here's what I mean by that. When you are negotiating for anything, you have to pre-think. What are your boundaries? Mm-hmm. And I use the acronym MOM. And that means, are you going for the maximum, the okay, or the minimum? And you have to... and then and those are your boundaries. And if it is below the minimum, then it's not a good ask. It's not a good deal. Mm-hmm. And I always say, Mom was right. And I always use that as my barometer, my parameters when I am negotiating anything, because I don't want crumbs.
And they can come up so easily, especially when you're not ready to address them. So really, you always have to be in a strategic mindset when you're talking about what you're building your brand and getting recognized and getting rewarded for what it is that you bring to the table and how you can. One of the things I always tell everybody, they call me, they want me to do something. This is my thing. Let me know how I can be of service for you. Because if I give you what you want, I'm undoubtedly going to get what I want, even if it's a small thing. Whatever it is, you're gonna get something. So put in that. I love you say put in when you're building up somebody's ego, you go in and you're saying, give them a compliment, but be honest about it, be authentic about it, because people can tell when you BSing with them and you just blowing smoke.
Oh. Absolutely. I call compliment with a reason. And you do. You want to put some deposits in their ego bank before you start making withdrawals, so you'll always have residual. Mm-hmm. And you compliment for the real and the unexpected. I used to do a lot of rep rides with salespeople, and when they would go and call in on these offices, the receptionists are usually quite pretty. So instead of going in and saying, oh, you're so attractive, right? They hear that. And to your point, that's not authentic. You know how many times they've heard that? So instead of complimenting them on something that's obvious and shallow, you say, you run such an efficient office. I can see that, you're very kind to sales reps, and you treat them with dignity, and you're sure that they get back to see the boss soon, and you don't keep people waiting, and you're the most efficient office I call on every day, or something like that. And that's when people really resonate, because A, it's authentic, and B, it's unexpected.
Totally. This is another thing that I have seen happen. People will say they walk into a big law firm and they want to see the senior attorney, and they'll come in and they'll be so rude to that receptionist, no matter how pretty she is. And then they wonder how come they can't get back there. You cannot, I believe this, you don't devalue anybody in anybody's position. That everybody is important. Everybody is important in that wheel, in that sphere of influence, because the gatekeepers, that's why they're the gatekeepers. If you're nice to them, I have like we said, you can get more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. I have been in situations where I couldn't, the hotel might be overbooked, and you're just being nice to the person at the desk, and they'll go, you know what? I got a suite for you, mother love. All the rooms are booked, but I'll put you in a suite. Okay.
It's the truth. It's so interesting that you're saying that, because my husband cannot understand how I always get upgrades. And the reason I get an upgrade is because I compliment the people at the front desk when you check in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they're so used to dealing with angry, tired, quote unquote guests, that when somebody comes in and actually connects with them and compliments them, and they will bend over backwards for you to make you stay pleasant.
Treat you like royalty. I was on a book tour, and I had been gone for oh my goodness, I had been gone for almost a month. And I thought I had taken a lot of clothes. This is before 9/11. I thought I had taken a lot of clothes, but obviously I didn't have enough. So I called the publisher and I said, I'm running out of clothes. I'm running out of underwear. What am I going to do? They said, take the stuff down to the hotel, down to the dry cleaners. So when the guy came to pick up my laundry, I put it in a suitcase. I said, because this is just too much to put in a bag. He said, nobody ever puts their clothes in a suitcase. The head of the laundry department, he brought both of my racks of clothes up. He had all of my underwear neatly folded. It was a little creepy. He had it neatly folded in a sealed plastic bag. And he said, I've been downstairs in this laundry for 30 years and I've never seen anybody have this many clothes. I had to come up and meet who this was. He said, this is just absolutely magnificent. Every day I had flowers in my room. Every day I had whatever they had.
Oh.
So, and what does it take to be nice to another human being? To show just a little bit of class. That's why I love this book. This is just amazing. What made you decide to sit down and finally put it in a book?
Because there are too many frustrated, angry people. And you don't need... Seriously. And you know what else made me write this book? My daughter. Mm-hmm. And let me take a minute and just tell you why she's my hero. Because she's doing professional theater, and she is fearless. She's wonderful at putting herself out there and taking feedback, learning from it, and keeping on going. And she's only a year out of school. And, she took several jobs while auditioning. She finally landed a national tour. But she was instructing her cousin, who's been out for several years now, can't get a job. And she said, I can't believe that. And she said, there's no reason not to get a job. And then she started talking about the fact that she Xeroxed, there you go, she Xeroxed her resume and just went up and down the west side of Manhattan, handing out resumes, shaking hands, connecting with people, and got 3 jobs. Mm-hmm. 3 jobs. And one of them was as a hostess at, some Broadway restaurants. And he said, oh, my God, that's so beneath you. How did you do that, whatever? And she said, no, it's not. And he said, well, isn't it boring? She said, no, it's not. She said, there's no reason to be bored. In downtime, I run math problems in my head. Who does that? But anyway, she said, I run math problems in my head. And then I look for couples who are talking about the city and what they need to do next. And then I get to share my information and my expertise about the city and act as their guide, which is very gratifying. And I think that is wonderful. Look, it wasn't a job she wanted, but she decided to take any job and perfect her interpersonal skills. And guess what? She's maybe not climbing the right ladder when she's doing that, but she's learning skills that will allow her to move to a different ladder, make herself invaluable as a cast member, somebody they like, and they will cast her again. She's very personable.
Let's talk
and
about
I thought, hats off to you. I'm writing about this.
Let's talk about that right ladder. Right ladder, wrong wall. The right ladder. You give a quote from Stephen Covey. If the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. And I love the quotes that are in the book from everybody. So you got Sandra Bullock and all kind of people in there. And a lot of people have the wrong. They got the right ladder but the wrong wall. How does one get out of that?
Well, first of all, it goes back to the notion that you said. It goes back to courage. And somebody asked me, well, who's this book for? And I said, anybody who's looking to get in, go up, or get out, because those are the choices that you always make. And at some point, if you feel that your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, you know what? a bird in the hand could mean you're just holding a lot of guano. So,
you just got a handful of bird caca.
There you go. And so, you know what, and the signals are when you're not looking forward to going to work, when it becomes drudgery, when you really don't want to be promoted to the next position, then it's time to rethink, because, you can't see yourself long in the job. And so you have to constantly assess. And when you get to the point where and I say this, where you've tasted the wine, WHINE, it's time to either, make some constructive suggestions. How can things be better? Or get out. And it doesn't mean that you're giving up. It means that you are moving on. And there's no shame in saying, this isn't working. And those are the inflection points, and you have to recognize them. You have to do it before you get bitter and before you get insular. And you just keep looking in, and you can't look out. When that happens, it's almost too late.
Is it one of the things you mentioned, and I'm taking this as my mantra right from your book. Hope is not a plan. It goes back to the Cinderella had a fairy godmother and you don't. In the beginning, hope is not a plan. I had never even thought about it like that, because you hear people say, oh, I hope I get a raise, or I hope I get a job, or I hope I find a husband, or I hope. Hope is not a plan. Get up and do the work. Put it at the right ladder. Put it on the right wall. And when you know it's not working, so many people, because they'll look at it and go, well, I failed at that. Okay, but I look at it like you made the attempt. You at least got up and said, I will make an attempt to do this. When you know it's not working, just move the ladder.
Move the ladder. And, and it's not defeat. What it is truth. Mm-hmm. What you've done now is gotten in touch with your capabilities and your emotions. And, they talk a lot, current terminology is something called strategic agility. What it simply means is your ability to anticipate, analyze, and act. You're assessing your current situation. Is it working for you? And if it's not working, then, and this sounds trite, but frankly, our life is too short. You shouldn't let fear drive your decisions. And you have to start thinking, what are your strengths and how can you exploit them? And if you've done pretty well climbing the ladder, those are very transferable skills. Now use that business acumen, the ability to build a fan base, all the things that you've done in a job you don't like as you move forward into a job that you will like better.
Let's see.
And you have to be fearless.
And have a passion for it. Have a passion for what you do. Tell people how they can get a copy of your book, because they're not getting mine.
And I call that Edge for the Edge, by the way. Yeah, they can go online, Amazon.com, Target and you can go to Barnes & Noble. You can buy it in the bookstores. You can actually buy it online from Barnes & Noble. So it's actually ubiquitous. I'm very fortunate it's everywhere.
Oh, that is so wonderful. So what's for your next feat, madam?
My next feat is to spread the word, and thank you for helping me, because I'm at a point in my life where I need to give back. And yes, I think I have achieved a certain amount of success, and now it's time for me to help other people be successful. And if I do that, I'm going to die a happy life.
Oh, excuse me. Don't say if under the love dome, my dear. It's when. It is when. We don't do if. We don't do maybe. We don't do someday, one day, any day. It's today, and you are doing it. And I am so honored and so grateful to be able to keep reading this book and sharing this with everybody. Please let us know how we can be of service to you and your clients. It has been my distinct honor and pleasure to chat with you. Know that you're always welcome here. And remember, let the universe open up and conspire for your great success. Ladies and gentlemen, Tamara Jacobs of Tamara Jacobs Communications. Are you still taking clients?
I am so taking clients, and I have to thank you. I have absolutely enjoyed this this conversation, and you've done the work.
Oh.
So thank you for making this really enjoyable and frankly educational. Thank you.
It has been my pleasure to be of service. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. Give my love to your daughter Avery and that fabulous husband of yours, and know that we love you, ladies and gentlemen. Get the book, Your Ultimate Success Plan. Stop holding yourself back and get recognized, rewarded, and promoted. And babies, you know mother loves you, and there's nothing you can do about me loving you. Peace, babies.